Common tax questions for owner operators. Coming up next. Let's go. Welcome to another edition of Trucking with Loshawnparks, where you could have been anywhere else in the world, but you're here with me, and I truly do appreciate that. So in today's video, once again, like I said, we're going to be talking about most commonly asked questions for owner operators in the trucking industry when it comes to taxes. Now, this portion is going to be brought to you by ATBS. I'm not sponsored by ATBS, by the way, but this is like a questionnaire that ATBS was given or was asked by a lot of owner operators, and I received this via email. So I wanted to go ahead and read some of these questions and the answers off to you guys on what the CPAs from ATBS had to say about it, which I found it to be very interesting and helpful to some of the owner operators out there for tax season that's coming up. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this. First question is, how much should I set aside for business taxes? And the answer is, it is recommended to set aside 25 to 28% of your weekly net income for quarterly taxes. All right, so a lot of people have different numbers that they want to throw out and say, put back a certain amount. But according to ATBS, once again, which are certified public accountants, CPAs, they're indicating to put back 25 to 28% of your weekly net income for quarterly taxes. So that answered that question there for a lot of people that have had that question, which is a really good one. Next question is, I cannot get my taxes done on time. What should I do? And the answer is, let ATBS or your personal CPA, if you have one, know as soon as possible. At that point, they will file, meaning your CPA or ATBS, if you choose to go with them, will file a one-time 6-month extension for you. It is an extension to file, not an extension to pay. So that's really important that people understand that it is not an extension of paying, but more so an extension of, giving you more time to get your paperwork together in order for you to pay, the amount that you're owed. So I don't want people to fall victim to thinking that it's an extension to file, that it's an extension to pay, and it's not. It's just an extension to file, okay? So make sure that you guys understand that. Next question is, will I receive a tax refund? And I find this question to be very important because it separates what I call the poor mindset from the business mindset, right? So, and that answer is, this is very dependent on your individual situation. However, it's not likely if you are an owner operator that you will receive a tax refund. Goes on to say, ATBS works hard to keep you as close to owing nothing as possible. Remember, if you are getting a refund, you have given the government an interest-free loan. And this is kind of like something that I preach on this as well, especially what I took from this question in this answer that was given. What stood out to me and was highlighted to me was you have given the government an interest-free loan. I kind of preach to people that I don't pay my quarterly taxes. I like to pay at the end of the year, which they're going to answer what I'm saying here momentarily, because it was a question that was asked about that as well. But this is the reason why I rather just put the money aside myself and then pay my taxes at the end of the year, opposed to paying quarterly, because I don't want to give the government an interest-free loan. And essentially, whenever the government is giving you back money because as far as a refund, more than likely you've paid too much into quarterly taxes. And that's just what they're doing. They're paying you back the extra that you've paid in. So once again, it's kind of like a interest-free loan that you're giving to the IRS. So make sure that you do know that. All right, the next question is, will my tax preparer send my 1099 miscellaneous form? And the answer to that is no. Your carrier will send you your 1099 miscellaneous form. So whether you're an owner operator with your own authority, then you create your own 1099, correct? So, or if you are leased on with somebody, they will send you a 1099. So your tax preparer, your CPA, does not send you a 1099 at all. So make sure that you don't ask your tax to send you 1099, because that doesn't happen unless your tax prep is like your accountant, your bookkeeper, and things of that nature, and they handle all of your accountant stuff and your expenses. Then they will be responsible, I guess, for sending you the 1099, essentially, if that's what you hired them for. All right, the next question is, I did not pay my quarterly tax estimates this year. What is going to happen? So once again, we're going back to that third question that was given, where I said that, I like to pay mine at the end of the year, but here's their answer. It says the IRS will charge you underpayment penalties, interest for the taxes not paid. At ATBS, our tax department will calculate that charge and include the penalties and interest on your year-end tax return. So what it sounds like to me is somewhere of the nature, like ATBS is kind of like agreeing with me, where it's almost, they prefer for you to pay it at the end of the year than tend to pay quarterly, but to withhold the money for, quarterly and then pay it towards the end of the year. But basically, there are going to be penalties and interest that is accrued from this. The penalties and interest are not that big, you know what I mean? If anything, maybe 1%. But once again, this leads back to where I say that you need to keep all of your capital for working capital, cash flow, things of that nature, and just put your tax money, your 25 to 28% in a savings account. And then at the end of the year, just pay what you owe to IRS, right? Quarterly taxes is developed because a lot of people are not financially responsible for their money, so they end up spending their tax money and not putting it aside. If you are a responsible individual, then you could pay it at the end of the year. I would say that if you're not a responsible person and you feel like you can blow your tax money, then for you to go ahead and pay your quarterly taxes, all right? But once again, that's subjective. It just depends on which route you choose to take, and how much of the word I'm trying to look for here, how responsible you are with saving your money and doing the right thing with it. All right, next question is, what tax forms do I need to complete for a contract laborer? For example, an employed team driver. And this is going to be really important. Here is the answer that they gave. They say, if you have an employee, run them through payroll and issue them a W-2 at the end of the year. If you have a contractor laborer, issue them a 1099 miscellaneous form. This is what I've preached and talked about for so long on my channel as well, is there's no such thing as a company 1099 driver. It's illegal. Okay. It is out there. A lot of companies, I would say a lot of companies in trucking that do this, and they have company drivers that are 1099 workers. But what they're doing is shifting the tax burden that they're supposed to be taking on, considering that you're a company driver. They're shifting that tax burden off on you, because essentially you're really not a contractor, okay? You're supposed to be an employee, but you're in that truck and they pay for all the truck, the fuel and everything of this nature, and claim you as a 1099 contractor or a 1099 driver. And essentially you're an employee that you should be on W-2s, right? So you should be receiving a W-2 if you don't have to be responsible for any expenses, all right? If you are responsible for expenses, then you are a contractor or a contract laborer. You should have an EIN number that you provide the company with, so that they can file it on your EIN portion, and you should be able to have write-offs, right? As far as like the truck payment, fuel, and stuff of that nature. If you don't have truck payments and write-offs, then you technically a company driver and you should be receiving a W-2. So once again, it's going to be subjective on that, because people are going to probably hate me for that. For saying that you are illegally classified as what you are, and you're not a 1099 contractor. You're a W-2 worker, and you should be labeled as that. And you kind of want to be labeled as that because you don't want to take on that whole tax burden, because at the end of the year, when it's cut to you, they're going to cut you a 1099, and your tax bill is going to be out of this world, okay? So just keep that in mind. Next question is, do I need to file a separate tax form, do I need to file a separate tax return for owner-operator earnings and company driver earnings? And the answer to that is no. As a sole proprietor, you will file one return, Form 1040. The 1040 will contain a Schedule C listing business earnings and expenses, all right? So I know a lot of people feel like, as me being an owner operator and I put myself on a W-2 or I pay myself a certain amount of money, do I file owner operator earnings and company driver earnings? And once again, you just file your Form 1040 Schedule C and you list the business earnings and expenses. It's a really, really good one. So that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this video. This will be a video that is broken down into two different parts, two different sections. So we just completed part one. On part two, what we will be talking about is per diem questions. All right. We will also get into family related questions as far as taxes returns go on things that you can claim. And we will also talk about deduction questions. And last but not least, we will also get into other miscellaneous questions that they received. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Please do like, share, subscribe, share it out to a friend, share it out to an owner operator, share it out to a lease operator, share it out to somebody who needs this tax information so that they can be successful and pay their taxes and be on top of it. All right. So y'all be safe. Don't do nothing I wouldn't do, like be unsafe. And as always, winners focus on winning and losers focus on winners, and we win it right here. Trucking with Loshawnparks. Make sure that you follow me on Instagram, Loshawnparks, and you can follow me on Facebook, Loshawnparks as well. And on your way out, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you like the content, hit the like button and the bell so you get notifications. I probably should have said all this in the beginning, but it fit right in right now. All right. Salute.